Hello, my name is Virginia Bruner, and I am the Technology Access Coordinator for the English Language Program here at Kansas State University. I have been teaching with the ELP for 8 years now, and I have focused mainly on academic and technical writing. Today, we're going to look at 2 grammar structures that you need when you are writing meeting minutes and note for ball: third-person point of view and reported speech. Some of you may have heard of these before, and some of you may not. Third-person point of view is covered in a separate handout in this module, but we will do a quick review here too. This lesson is mostly going to focus on an overview of reported speech and some of the grammatical patterns related to this topic. First off, as you have read in the point of view handout, a point of view is a writer's position on a particular description of events. First-person point of view means that the events described are from the point of view of the writer or speaker and include the pronouns I, me, my, etc. Second-person point of view is from the perspective of the person who is spoken to and uses the pronouns you, your, etc. Third person, in contrast, is from the perspective of the person or people the writer is speaking about or describing. For this point of view, we use the pronouns she, he, it, they, them, and so on. We will come back to this topic later. Next, what is reported speech? To report means to repeat or give an account of something. You might already be familiar with quoted or direct speech, which is when you use quotation marks to show what someone directly said. However, sometimes we want to repeat that information to someone else later, so we can't use the pronouns I, me, and so on. What do? We use reported or indirect speech with a noun clause to tell others that we did not originally say this information. Let's listen to an example of direct speech first. Here, we have a sentence from Dr. Mwangi's presentation on communicating across cultures.
It is important to understand the similarities and differences in the value systems of those you are interacting with.
To write this as direct speech, we write the name of the person, in this case Dr. Mwangi, and an action verb. Here, I'll use the verb say, since it's an easy verb to work with. Since Dr. Mwangi gave us this information already, I'll begin my sentence with Dr. Mwangi said, followed by the quotations around his original words. Notice that, since I didn't change anything that he actually said, the verb of the main sentence, said, doesn't match the tense of what Dr. Mwangi used. Now, suppose I'm having a conversation with someone later, and we are discussing the ideas from this particular presentation. I want to tell the person what Dr. Mwangi said in the past, but I don't want them to get confused and think that I came up with these ideas. And I don't want them to be confused by the differences in the tenses. In this case, I'm going to use reported speech. To report what Dr. Mwangi said, I'm going to need to do something called backtensing, which means that I take the original tense of the verbs from the sentence and move them back. Here's a handy chart to show you how backtensing works. You can see that for present tense statements, the verbs will change to the past forms. If the original verbs are in the past tense, then they go to past perfect. except if the verb is already in the past perfect. That remains the same, since you can't go back any further. Future tense statements simply change the modal, and the verb itself remains the same. Also, remember to change any pronouns in the original sentence to match the subject of your new sentence. So, for our earlier example, I will write, Dr. Mwangi said that it was important to understand the similarities and differences in the value systems of those you were interacting with. Here, I changed the simple present is to was, and the present progressive are interacting to were interacting. Notice that the simple and progressive forms of the verbs stay the same, but the tense of each verb has shifted from the present tense to the past. Now, before we end here, we're going to practice with reported speech. Your task is to read the original sentence on this slide and change the sentence from direct speech to reported speech. You can go back to the previous slide and use the chart for help if you need it.